Hi everyone, um, Snigdh Bhatnagar here, and today we are going to look into a very important topic which is related to texturing. Excuse me. And this topic is so important that you are going to need it in almost every aspect of assets creation when it comes to feature films and especially games, because or games or in any kind of scenario where real-time rendering is required. So when I say real-time rendering means that we are essentially talking about games. We are essentially, you know, time things like interactive e-learning content, where platforms like Unity and other 3D integration platforms are being used. So the idea here is to create assets, to create 3D assets and still be able to render them in real time and not really bog down the resources of the equipment or the machine or the phone that you're using. Okay, so this technology, this technique is called uh, transferring maps from high poly to low poly, and there are essentially few um, techniques to do it, but I've taken a small screenshot here which is going to explain how we do it. So the process is like a four-step process, and the first one being where you create a very low poly model. uh, I'm going to demonstrate all of this today to you, but just to give you an overview of what we are trying to do here, this is how we are going to do it. So basically, you first create a low poly model. In the second step, you UV map that low poly model, and in the next step, what you do is you take a copy of that low poly model and add uh, some more resolution to that um, model, and probably take it into applications like ZBrush or Mudbox or Substance. Create your details and then bring that geometry back into Maya. And obviously, this geometry is going to be really heavy. So now what you need to do is you need to bake that resolution or bake those textures onto your low poly model, right? And these textures could be normal maps, these could be displacement maps, even opacity maps, AO maps or occlusion maps, and even alpha maps, right? So let's get right into it and see how things are working. Let's begin. So I'm going to start up Maya, and I'm basically working in Maya 2019, and this is the student version. So first of all, I'm going to set my project. I'm going to go to the location where all my classes are there. You can skip this part. That's my project. Okay, and now I'm going to open up a file which basically has two cubes out here. So now you can see that they are of two different resolutions. Okay, and I'll just go about demonstrating it how I've done this. Just hide this off. essentially what I've done is I've just taken a basic cube, scaled it up to a certain degree, gone to the side view, got it up here. So let's say 5 units in the y-axis, and okay, so this is the basic cube that I have. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to UV this, and before I go into the UV editor, I'll just switch my workspace to UV editing, and that is giving me the basic default map which comes with the cube. Okay, nothing new with this. And I'm going to just uh, create an automatic version for this. So there I can begin with any one of the edges. So I have two of these being shared here, maybe this and this, and then I'll just come here and say move and so, right? UV shell, that becomes one shell. I'm going to put it up here somewhere. So now what I have is this, this, and this. So I have 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going this way, and then I'm going to come down here, which is actually this. Then I'm going to again press G, or wait a minute, move and so. So I have this one now, and then I have this, and yeah, so basically that's about it. So I have a complete 1, 2, 3, and 4. So all four faces are here, and you can tell this by looking here also, because this edge and this edge are being shared, which means that I am already at this edge. Okay, so we're done with this part. Now I need this one and this one. Okay, so I'm going to select this, hit G, and select this and hit G. So that's my complete map. I'm going to hit Control or Command L to lay this out nice and big in the UV editor. Okay, now what I need to do is the second step, which is, maybe I deleted it by chance. Anyway, so the second step would be to essentially select this. I can close out my UV editing workspace and then create a duplicate of this cube. So that becomes my low poly model, and this is going to be the high poly model. Now when it comes to creating a high poly model, what I'm essentially doing is I've created this as my low poly, UV mapped it, and then created a duplicate of this same box, and I'm going to go to the edge mode and shift right click and insert some edge loops here. By default I have some 10 number of edge loops going on here, which is fine. So basically what I've done is I've added some resolution here. Okay, okay, so now if I go back into the UV editor and inspect what's going on, you would see that this is the one that we had already UV mapped, and now when I click on this one, the map is same, only with a little more resolution into it, which is obviously the ones that we had added later on. So in a way I would say that we have remeshed it, or we have increased the resolution, and we've gone from low poly to high poly, right? Now, this could be a case where, suppose if you're not doing this here itself, you could probably export this model out as an OBJ and then probably take it into ZBrush or somewhere else, like Substance or Mudbox, and then add some more resolution to it, sculpt it out and create more geometry, and then bring it back again here, right? Anyway, we are not going to get into that. I'm going to take you through a different route and then explain things. Okay. So that said, I have this UV map already worked out here. So I'll go to image and I'll say UV snapshot, and I'll go to browse. I'm going to go to the location. I don't know why this is not going to the same location where I had set my project. Just quickly reach out to the same location and then I'll save this out. Okay, so here I am, and this is the source image section where I'm going to put in my UV map for high poly. Okay, and I'm going to choose a 1028 by 1028 workspace, and TIFF or Targa, any one of them is fine, and then just say apply and close. Okay, so this much is done here. And then I'll save this out, continue, and then minimize this, close this off, and close this off as well. Now I'm going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to say open and go to the same location, classes, source images, and that's my file actually. I'm going to invert it right away so that I can see it better using Control I or Command I. And on top of this, I'm going to place a pattern which I've downloaded from internet. You can also get it. This is the basic pattern that I've downloaded, and I'm going to try and convert this into a 3D normal map which I can place in Maya. That's my normal map, sorry, my pattern, and I'm going to reduce it to a size where I can probably create. I'm going to scale this down, shift this, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to right click and convert this into a raster layer, rather not a smart object, because that won't help me in any way. And I'm going to duplicate this once and place it somewhere here like this, and probably bring it down to that point, then duplicate it again, Okay, so this is how I'm going about it. Then duplicate the entire uh, and I'm going to right click and say flip vertical, and then I'm going to move this out and align it properly. Okay, so this is basically how it's going to look like, and I'm going to need a new layer below all the layers and above the background layer, which is going to be a white fill layer. To get rid of this and switch this layer off, and then let's select all of them and merge by using Control E. Then go to filter. I have 3D option here and say generate normal map. And that's how it's going to basically look like when I switch to a cube object, right? And you can see there's a lot of depth coming in. Okay, so I'll just say okay to this. Rest is not required actually, so but still that's fine. I'll just save this out like this. So save on my computer, and I'll call this into a targa file. This is going to be a normal map, high poly, save. This is going to be 16 bit should be fine. You can even go 24, 32 is okay. Say okay. Now, if I mean, it's really dependent on me now, on which, okay, so I have now created a normal map and then I'm going to apply a new material to it. Now, this could be any material. I'll just throw in a Lambert. Basic Lambert should do. And then I'll go to material attributes, go to the bump mapping section, create a file, and I'm going to choose tangent space normals. Go to file, choose the normal, and this is basically what you are going to get as your texture. Okay, so you see this sort of a grainy look to it. Okay, so now the thing is that this is very high resolution, and we are not actually not in need of such high resolution model here, because the same texture can also be applied on this also. So I'll just need to go here, apply maybe a Blinn or Lambert, any material, doesn't matter. Go to file and then apply a similar. I'm going to get a little more shine onto it. This is much more lighter. Okay. All right. So that's one way of doing it. Now, another way of doing it could be wherein we are not actually applying the texture after we are bringing it from outside. Okay. So that method is a little different from this. So let's understand that one. I'm going to hide these two and come back to this one. So here I have a little higher resolution kind of a now this is where I'm going to talk about a technique where if you are creating something inside Maya, like you're sculpting something here, for example. So I'm going to select these few faces and I'm going to probably do a extrude. I'm going to take these in probably like that. Okay, so that's the kind of detail that I am looking at. So now in order to transfer these details onto the light or to the low poly model, what I need to do is I need to select this, come down to the rendering section, go to lighting and shading, and then come down to the baking section and it says transfer maps. So if you have already selected the low poly model, this is going to automatically load it here in the target meshes section. See, it says target mesh name p cube shape 1, and for example if you have not selected it, you can probably reset it and then select this and say add selected. And similarly in the sources mesh, I'll just select this one and say add selected. Now there's one more thing that I need to do, and that is to bring this back to 0. Actually only in the Z axis, not in the Y axis. And then we need to freeze the transformations here. So I'll just freeze it. I'll select the other one also and freeze that as well. Okay, the idea is that they should be on top of each other, exactly on top of each other. No excuses there. Okay, so I'm going to select this one and this is already here, add selected. And I'm going to now come to the section where it says display. I'm going to choose envelope, and here you would see that there's a pink kind of a overlay which is showing me the search envelope, and I'm going to increase this a little bit so that the search area becomes visible. And here in the output maps you can add the normals. So normal map gets added. I'm going to choose a format for it, which is going to be Targa, and we can give it transfer maps normal, copy, save. This can be Targa, and I'm going to add a displacement as well, and this is going to be called displacement. Format can be Targa. Okay, now it says connect maps to shader. So it's going to load up a new shader and automatically connect these maps to it. This option is basically telling you that. And choose the Maya common output, the size of it. So I'm going to choose 1024. Rest is fine, and just say bake and close. So here you can see the progress, bottom left. Should not take much time. And you can already see that there's something that has happened. So I'm going to select the low poly model and move it to one side. Okay. If I hold on 5, there's nothing that you would be able to see here. This is the high resolution one and this is the low resolution one. But if I press down 6, so you can actually see that uh, normal maps have been applied here. Normal maps have this tendency of interacting with the light as you turn the camera angle. See. So this technology is actually really great for applications like gaming and um, things like Unity, where you have interactive e-learning applications coming up. So that's about it. I hope this helps you. I would want you to try this out on your own models. Try out the texturing part and see where you can go with it. All right. Okay. Bye.